This work program provides a clear picture of how the senior biology course of Shark Bay High School will be delivered and assessed whilst meeting the requirements of the biology syllabus as set out by the Queensland Curriculum Assessment Authority, the QCAA. This work program shows the sequencing of 8 units of work, key concepts and key ideas, and maps out the sequence and time allocation for each unit of work, being 55 hours per semester or 220 hours for the entire program. In addition to QCAA requirements for 2 units to be contextualised, 1 at each year, the first 6 units have been linked to a context. Each key concept is explored in at least 2 different units of work, and all key ideas have been covered over the full 2 years, and the hours of field work meet the minimum requirements. The work program clearly communicates the assessment plan, showing a unique instrument number and assessment category for each unit of work, and it can be easily seen that all 3 general objectives are covered in each semester by those assessment tasks. Assessment types are balanced. They have different techniques of assessment which complement the context and conditions of implementation which are listed. You can see that there are 6 balanced instruments completed in time for verification in August, satisfying the minimum number required. The sequencing of this work program was done to facilitate scaffolding with the revisiting of key concepts and ideas. Key concepts repeat, allowing building on previous learning, and the number of key ideas shows the scope and depth of that learning within the key concepts. Student learning over Year 11 and 12 is progressively developed, and their understanding of science concepts is revisited and deepened. Just an example of building and deepening, the first unit simply starts with the importance of ecology. The second looks at practices that impact that ecology. The third moves into the science controlling part of that ecology, and etc., etc. To help others follow this work program, it has been set up with the context and learning descriptions separate from the tabular information so as not to clutter and confuse the table. This enhances the flow, and compliance of the work program is quickly and easily visible by all who view it. The work program is a quality interpretation of the syllabus, with the context of the units being specific for Shark Bay High School, providing a framework upon which to assess student achievement and fulfil syllabus requirements. After attaching a student profile, this program demonstrates compliance with the QCAA checklist and satisfies all syllabus requirements and is ready for submission. The model used for the design of the context and assessments for this work program was the Kemp model. Initially, the ADDIE model was considered because of its simplicity. However, using this model and its circular steps proved frustrating, as I seemed to go around in circles and not feel as though I made much progress. The Dick and Carey model presents logically, using a linear progression, starting with goals, using an instructional analysis and student entry behaviours to develop the performance objectives, criterion reference tests, and so on. However, my interpretation is that it tends to leave evaluation of the different steps until the end of the process. More congruent to my style of thinking, especially when dealing with context-based learning, I have chosen to align my work program with the Kemp model. This framework tends to adopt a learner perspective approach and provides a holistic overview by situating 9 core elements prioritised as important for teaching and learning within encompassing circles of evaluation, planning, project management and support services. Akbalat 2007 explains that the 9 core elements are interrelated and interdependent, and the overall use of circles reinforces the interconnectedness of all aspects of the framework. Akbalat 2007 claims that the advantage of this model is that it is non-linear, and by not favouring any particular element, there is flexibility with starting the design process of context-based learning and allows consideration of many elements congruently. Print 1993, page 80, summarises that dynamic models, by lacking constraint, facilitate flexibility within the development process so that development can be unordered, revisited, and proceed in new, preferable ways whilst being mindful of the learner's needs. According to the QCAA, context should offer students opportunities to explore key concepts and understandings about the world and allow students to gather information firsthand. They should provide relevance to students' lives, develop understandings that students require for their futures, engage in interest, complement other contexts, be evaluated and adjusted, be challenging and relevant beyond school, and also be current and topical. Guided by the syllabus, further research into context-based approaches supports this viewpoint and were considered when designing the context and learning in this work program. King, Bellocchi, Ritchie, 2007, page 379, explains that context-based approaches use the context to drive the implementation and design processes, and the content and concepts naturally arise as needed from the context. Hence, contexts form the basis of these units of work. King, Bellocchi, Ritchie, 2007, page 381, states that revisiting key concepts within differing contexts reinforces conceptual links. Hence, the units have been constructed to revisit key concepts. Bennett et al., 2005, page 1523, guides us by claiming scientific understanding must start with context and science applications, and should adopt an active or student-centered approach and develop scientific ideas through a spiral curriculum model. Elements of the spiral curriculum are evident here, with student learning developing by revisiting of key concepts and key ideas in more complexity so as to reinforce previous learning. King, Bellocchi, Ritchie, 2007, page 379, states that context-based approaches improve connections between concepts and applications in the real world, as they provide meaning, interest and relevance, and can provide opportunities for a student-centered approach. This was a key need identified in the situational analysis for students, and student choice is evident within the learning and assessment tasks. Bennett, Lubin, Hogarth, 2006, page 347 and 368, states that starting with a context-based approach when developing scientific understanding is supported by valid and reliable evidence, and it improves attitudes to science for both genders and lessens gender differences. Again, improving students' attitudes was highlighted by my situational analysis. Bennett, Lubin, Hogarth, 2006, page 367, endorse contexts that have current relevance and interest to students that they may encounter within their lifetime, hold technological developments and items of interest, are relevant to future career paths, hold links to recent innovations, research and industry. The context of this work program meets such requirements, and indeed, as highlighted by the situational analysis, they are strongly tied to the community's need for links to their local industries. Bennett, Lubin and Hogarth, page 362, simplifies this by reminding that context should be based upon local issues or links to students' life experiences. King, 2012, page 88, reminds us to consider the culture and the context of the school, the resources available and the community's needs when curriculum planning. With this in mind, this work program followed advice from Bennett et al., 2005, page 1523, who claims that context should encompass social, environmental, economic, industrial and technological science applications, which is further endorsed by Bennett and Holman, 2002, page 165. Hence, hands-on focus has been adopted, with Indigenous perspectives heavily valued in the context of Unit 1 and 2. I believe my contexts align with the advice given by Taconis et al., 2016, page 6, who claims that effective contexts are understandable, recognisable, valuable, relevant, inspiring, and can be linked to the background knowledge of the student. Conducting a situational analysis has facilitated this process, and Print 1993, page 112, explains that a situational analysis helps prioritise identified educational needs and formulate goals, aims and objectives. This was done by giving consideration to the special characteristics of the Sharp-based students, the school community, the community in general, prioritising goals and recommendations, tailoring the learning experiences to match the knowledge and experience of the students. Bennett et al., 2005, page 1540 to 1543, describes how a context-based approach addresses nearly all of the goals identified in my situational analysis by increasing student motivation and encouraging students to self-regulate and direct their learning, think critically, develop positive attitudes towards science, and continue in science as a career. My contexts, therefore, include daily phenomena, authentic science, science, business scenarios and activities, community dilemmas and discussions, and debates to help construct understanding. These contexts will allow students to actively participate and contribute with experts and professionals in the community who can help them scaffold their scientific literacy and numeracy. Hopefully students themselves have scientific role models and members of the community which will reinforce that the students are capable themselves of pursuing science in their future careers. Overall, as identified by the situational analysis, this work program has the capacity to meet the needs of the students, the school and the community as listed in the situational analysis and achieve the goals identified. I have included in the appendix a quick summary of additional links of my context to the situational analysis also. Moving on to the evaluation plan. Using the Kemp model for evaluating this program, I see this model as being adapted and likened to the 3D spiral curriculum model, just viewed from an aerial perspective. From a starting point, gathering quick bursts of evaluation and feedback on the core elements before revisiting those areas with new input, then readjusting and broadening the spiral with verification and more in-depth and quality feedback, obstacle adjustments, drawing upon others in the construction process or the evaluation process to get stronger with reliability, validity and verification, to ultimately restart and continue the process from a stronger position, spiralling and growing up and outwards. Importantly, this model reminds me, when gathering evidence about the effectiveness of the work program ongoingly, to use evaluation not only on the 9 core elements, but also support services, project management, planning, revision processes, and summative evaluation. This dynamic design is encompassed by ongoing adjustments and revisions with the objective of optimizing the design process to maximize learning outcomes for the students, and this aligns with my personal approach style. In the appendix, I have included an outline of the plan which you are able to read. The main points of that is that it's an ongoing evaluation. It considers all the stakeholders and it seeks honest, genuine, reliable and unbiased feedback in a timely manner. Moving on to the action plan, there's an action plan there that I have constructed. The main thing is to point out, as Black 1993, page 50, would caution, that gathering information is pointless unless you can act upon it. And based upon the advice from Print 1993, page 81, and influenced by the Kemp model, I consider those steps I've listed under the action plan of great importance. In reflection, Fensham 2016, page 181 and 182, reminds us that the future of teaching science relies upon authentic assessment, significant professional development, innovations, context-based pedagogies, evidence-based practice and support groups. This work program could further be improved and maximised by further collaboration and exploitation of continual expert support and their resources to enrich the learning experiences for the students. I realise in real life that program design is normally done at the team level, with small groups, and success of a work program would hinge upon effective communication and sharing of information, especially with more experienced team members and professionals. Seeking collaboration with fellow colleagues or a head of department to discuss or ensure that the learning activities deliver the syllabus in an engaging way while meeting the needs of the students, community and school, and including stakeholders within the process of assessing and evaluating would be a lengthy and time-consuming and perhaps a burdening process. However, once those communication channels and relationships are established, along with the supporting resources, I foresee the program would become more efficient and more fine-tuned for the next wave of Year 11 science students. Lingard, Hayes and Mills, 2003, page 1, argues that pedagogical practices should be an ongoing concern, not only for teachers and schools, but also for local communities and the education system. School-based planning should extend to involving local industries, professional educators, parents and the local community in the development and evaluation processes, and seeking feedback, innovations and further insight and clarifications of the needs and expectations can further validate or refine this program. In real-life situations, the results of the collaboration may call for adjustments to the context-based work program. The work program in the reproductive unit could be limited by seasons, the cost of the trips, or unfavourable risk assessments, and I admit that the allocated hours may need adjusting depending on the exact calendar and holiday periods. Based On the situation analysis, I have allocated a fair amount of school time to complete the assessments, but I realise this may not be practical